Hey, what is up guys, Shady Wags with Got Your Back Aiming, and I think I've just about squeezed as much gameplay as I can out of Astroneer for now, at least until there are some big updates to the game. This title really snuck up and surprised me. I'd not heard anything about this game really until the day it released. And while I was initially turned off by the simplistic cartoony graphics, this is one of those rare games that displays it's not always about the graphics. Astroneer is so much fun. I can't rave enough about this game. Everything's well thought out, and it's everything I wanted games like No Man's Sky and Osiris New Dawn to be. No Man's Sky recently did add a lot of new content, but it's still missing co-op, and Osiris is still making strides to hopefully one day being a great game, but I doubt either of those will ever implement terraforming to the extent that Astroneer has already achieved. My one complaint on Astroneer, just like No Man's Sky and Osiris New Dawn, is the lack of content. I initially told you guys I thought you'd probably get about 30 hours of gameplay, and for the casual gamer, that is probably an accurate number, maybe even a little less than that. Once you've researched all the items and you've built all the stations and the vehicles, that doesn't leave you much left to do other than just to do it all again at another location. Now, we do have to take into consideration, though, this game is in pre-alpha. It's not even in alpha yet. And considering the state of Astroneer today, and some of the things that the devs have planned, like dedicated servers for a true multiplayer experience, quests and encounters, new vehicles and free flight, creatures, economy and survival mechanics like thirst and hunger, that makes me very optimistic for the future of this game. So I know people are going to ask, should I buy the game? And I think there's enough video out there right now that you can pretty much come to your own conclusion on whether this is the type of game you like or not. If it is the type of game you like, then it really boils down to, do you want to donate the money towards an unfinished game with the promise of eventually getting a complete game? And notice I did say donate, because essentially by purchasing Astroneer, you are donating money to System Era's endeavor to finish this game. If you don't have a problem with that, then by all means go for it. But if you're purchasing this with the intention of investing weeks or months of playtime in it, then I would recommend that you wait. I normally take these games through the ringer, and I'm guessing I've got approximately 50 to 60 hours out of Astroneer. And one thing that really intrigued me about the game is that the devs state the planets are actually round, and they're actually in space, and they're actually in orbit. So if you start at one location and you travel in a straight line, you should end up back at the same point. Now, I'm not the smartest person in the world. Hell, who am I kidding? I'm not the smartest person in my house. But I think that would imply that there's gravity holding you on the planet. Otherwise, you would just float away. So one of the last things I wanted to do before I put this game away for a while is attempt to dig to the center of the planet. I was interested to find out, would there be gravity at the center? Theoretically, I should be weightless there. And what would happen after I passed through the center and began digging towards the other side? And the most important thing I wanted to find out, is there really dinosaurs at the center of the planet? I mean, there could be. We don't really know. I wasn't real sure how I was going to go about this whole thing, because my concern was, how was I going to supply myself with oxygen? And was I going to have enough power to keep digging continually? For my first try, I tried using the truck with the crane attached, and I thought, well, you know, maybe I could just dig underneath the truck and just keep dropping and dropping. Well, that didn't work. Then a light bulb went off in my head. Shady, you're overthinking this thing. Just load up with a bunch of compound to make tethers and begin digging straight down near the base. The first base is on the planet's equator line, so it's right on the center, and the tethers are going to provide me with oxygen and power. So I loaded up with a bunch of compound, and I began my journey to the center of Terra. I'd heard that other people had dug to the center by going at an angle. I was worried about doing it that way because of the possibility of missing the center. I wanted to dig straight down, so I was minimizing my chances of missing the middle. I also read that someone asked the devs about digging to the middle, and they kind of sarcastically answered, sure, it's possible. Go ahead, give it a try, and let us know how it goes. So that did not sound real reassuring to me. I continued slowly, and I mean slowly. clicking one layer at a time. My biggest fear was that I was going to hit a cave and fall through, and that would be the end of the story. So I continued on slowly, clicking layer by layer and putting down tether after tether. At times this got really disorienting due to the constant camera turn. I knew I was digging down, but sometimes it looked like I was digging sideways, and sometimes it even looked like I was digging up. And then things just started getting really freaky. Weird sounds started coming out of the game, almost like shrieking. And the deeper I went, the more frequent those sounds became. They were almost like a warning telling me, hey, you're not supposed to be doing this. You better stop now. I didn't heed the warnings and I pressed on. And to make a very long story short, once I was about an hour in, I was running really low on tethers and I thought, you know, I'm not gonna make it. Then all of a sudden, I noticed I began falling very slowly. And as I continued on, it got to the point that even the slightest little movement sent me flying all over the place. I had reached the center of the planet, and you are in fact weightless there. That makes it extremely difficult to move. Even just the slightest little touch on the control stick just sends you flying out of control, and it makes it almost impossible to place down tethers. I was able to eventually gather my bearings, and I was almost out of tethers, but I wanted to continue making my way through that center and try to get up through the other side. But what is really weird about this is it's just so disorienting. Like right here, I have just passed a little bit outside the center, so I should be digging up, but it appears like I'm digging sideways, although in actuality, I am standing on the side of a vertical, straight up and down tunnel. Well, I did eventually run out of tethers, so I had no choice. I had to commit suicide. The big issue is, I don't know why, but digging that hole into the center of the planet completely hosed up my game. Everything was now in slow motion. I could barely move. It was really difficult to try to do anything. I couldn't select items. The game was just moving so slowly. The FPS was probably down to 1. I tried exiting and reloading the game and that didn't work. I tried flying to another planet. No luck there. So whatever came out of that hole in the ground turned my FPS into sludge. Despite the game lagging out so bad, I didn't want to give up on this. I wanted to find out what digging upwards was like. So I loaded myself up with Compound again, and believe me, it took forever with this lag. And then I began digging a hole right next to the existing one. This did go a lot faster because I knew I wasn't going to hit any caves, and I already had all those tethers down. What is funny though, I dropped a habitat down the hole before I started digging, and it did make its way all the way to the center, and it was suspended there weightless, so I now have an upside down base at the center of the planet. I began digging upwards and I did make it pretty far, and it's really odd because you're digging up, but the gravity pushes you up towards the top as you're digging. But if you turn around and try to head the opposite way, you will begin falling. So as long as you continue facing up, you're being pushed towards the surface. I dug for about another hour, but I never did break the surface, and I've kind of given up on this because it's just so messed up at this point. It's a struggle to try to even move or select anything, but I have no doubt I would have eventually broke through that surface and shot up through the top. Well, in the end, I did make it to the center of the planet. I didn't find any dinosaurs there or Brendan Fraser's career, but it is weightless there, so that is pretty cool. So that is all I have for now. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. And until next time, I will talk to you guys later.